The day I first met him, I openly said, I will represent Ray. I think that's the best thing for me to do. Let's take a walk. I had a home in Manhattan Beach. I know the great beaches there, and we took a very long walk on the beach, where, to be brief, I shared with him a very long story about all epic tales of a young man being challenged with the test of his life. That if you're lucky, you have those great tests. And not all men get tested, and somehow there's men and there's boys for the rest of our lives. There's guys that own the bones, and then there's guys that brag and say what they're gonna do, or they did, or they have something they don't have. So, how I feel about Ray Bucky? That young man, that handsome, athletic, spiritual, sensitive man, owned it beyond me. Owned it beyond me. So, for whatever he may recall, the lovely notes he wrote me on rare occasion always go back to that walk on the beach. So, person to person, probably the most rewarding relationship I had without ever being close, without ever wanting to go to lunch. I fathered my son years before he was born and owned it with Ray Bucky. With the words that, you know, I'm your white knight, and I'm not going to be f***ing around when you need me. You're going to do it on your own.
A former Manhattan Beach City Councilman sent us a letter saying the police had sent a letter out to parents of McMartin preschoolers, alerting the fact that there was an investigation, and that was the first that we'd heard of it. So they wrote up a very succinct, simple letter saying, we're doing an investigation, we don't wish to cause alarm, we don't think there's other children involved, but if you could talk to your children, we'd appreciate it, and if there's anything that you have any concerns, please call us.
When that letter arrived, I thought it was just really sad and awful what happened to these other families. It certainly didn't happen to ours. And if something was going on at the school, wouldn't one of our kids have said something? We have dinner as a family every night. We discuss what went on during the day. Wouldn't they have said something? So it was denial. You know, it didn't happen to us.
The letter, you know, in hindsight, people say, geez, that was a terribly stupid thing to do. Even in hindsight, I don't agree with that. The police were doing an investigation of a child abuse suspect. Word of it had gotten out, and there wasn't social media. They couldn't go on Facebook and explain it. They had to explain it somehow. They didn't want to leave messages on people's voicemail, which would have been what happened if you called these people. And they didn't want misinformation out there.
I think that when the letter arrived, I don't think I knew anything about child abuse. If somebody would have asked me what child abuse was, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have been able to give you a definition.
I would have thought of parent hitting or someone hitting a little child, you know.
I don't know if I just was not conscious. And when we had the children around the table that night and asked each one of them if anything happened at school, because we figured if we asked each one, then it wouldn't be, you know, singling out one or two of them. We got pretty much the same answer from all of them. And no, nothing happened, nobody hurt me. Okay, fine. I didn't have any real emotional, except like what John said of, that's really sad that it happened to this family, but not us.
Judy Johnson, people don't know a lot about her because she died shortly before the trial. She was suspected of being an alcoholic. She was divorced. She dropped her kid off. I mean, her child first went to the preschool because she just dropped him there without enrolling him, just left him at this preschool, and drove home. And Virginia McMartin, being kind of a sweet old grandmotherly lady, took the kid in and allowed the kid to continue coming to school. And my recollection is that there was a doctor who examined the child, and based on that examination, at least partly based on it, Raymond Buckey was arrested.
When it comes to the original mother, Judy Johnson, I didn't find out. You may presume that I knew a lot about that. I knew not even what's out there in the media, and even less because the district attorney concealed all about Judy Johnson from us. We finally located her hidden, as it were, in a motel where we wouldn't have known where she was. So the truth is, they hid it. They concealed it in what is old-fashioned violation of law. Exculpatory evidence that the mother, who was the face on a mistaken account of molestation, was mentally disabled, emotionally disabled.
I don't think the doctor found medical evidence of molestation. I think she just found something consistent with molestation. In any case, the child was examined by a doctor at UCLA, and an arrest of Buckey followed.
This one evening, I took Elizabeth, and the two of us went in, and she walked right into a bathroom, kind of just a little bathroom where there's just a little sink and a little toilet. And she said, "This is where the tunnel was." There was no tunnel there. I didn't see any tunnel. I didn't see a break in the wall. I didn't see anything, but she said, "This is where we went through the tunnel."
I remember being in what felt like a tunnel and having pictures of what to me I thought was the devil on the wall. I don't know if it was a bull's head or the devil, but to me as a kid it was the devil. And there being like candles off the side, like a light, you know, off the wall, and it was dark. And I remember going downstairs to get into it.
So I went, a couple of nights later, I was with my friend, a good friend, and her daughter to go over and pound. And the daughter said, "Oh, I want to show you. This is where we went into the tunnel." Oh, I still get goosebumps, because how could two different kids who didn't know each other, well, they sure didn't know each other, they knew each other now, but they didn't know each other at preschool, and they'd never talked about preschool.
A group of parents hired a tunnel expert. And the tunnel expert goes because the kids had talked about there being tunnels under the vacant lot that was next to the preschool. So a tunnel expert digs up the tunnels. Digs up the lot. Digs tunnels into the lot. And then there's press out there, and he's talking as if these tunnels were there.
I never doubted anything either of my children said about what happened to them at the preschool. Especially, in all honesty, I might not have believed it if they told me and I didn't have any other frame of reference. But once I had a frame of reference, and I know these kids weren't talking to each other, deciding how to make this all happen, I never doubted anything. I don't know how it happened. I don't have the imagination to figure it out, but I do not at all discount anything that they said.
Okay,